Welcome to Rights and Remedies, the podcast where law, advocacy, and healing come together. I'm Allison Mahoney, your host and a lawyer dedicated to fighting for the rights of survivors of domestic and sexual abuse, as well as children harmed by the child welfare system. Each week, we delve into legal battles and court cases, share powerful stories that demand change, and spotlight the cutting-edge practices that are helping victims on their journey to healing. So, if you're ready to dive into the intersection of advocacy and healing, subscribe to Rights and Remedies today. New episodes are released weekly, and we can't wait to have you join the conversation. Together, we can make a difference. Welcome back to Rights and Remedies. Before we begin today's episode, please be advised that we will be discussing sensitive topics, including sexual abuse, which may be triggering for some listeners. If you need to take a break or skip this episode, please do so and prioritize your own well-being. I'm very excited about today's guest. We have Choichun Leung. She is a multi-disciplinary artist. She lives in New York. She was raised in North Wales in the United Kingdom, and she's an artist. Her art practice documents an autobiographical story and the journey of healing from child sexual abuse. She's also a trained metalworker, a self-taught painter, a music composer, and a Reiki master. Welcome to the podcast today. I'm so excited to have you.
No, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate
Yeah, of course, of course. So let's start with your background. I'd love to hear what it was like being raised in North Wales and how you landed in New York.
Yeah, Wales is beautiful. I come from an island called Anglesey, and the village we lived was the village with the longest name in the world. It's like Llanfair Pwll, Gwyngyth Gogerydd, Twynjobol, Llantysilio, Gogogoch.
Oh my gosh.
The village is like these Neolithic burial mounds from the Celts, and
Okay.
it's a beautiful place. And Snowdonia is just opposite. So growing up there was, as a child, you don't appreciate nature, the beauty, and the history. But I always knew I wanted to leave purely because of what I wanted to experience in the world. I knew it wasn't just there. My parents owned a Chinese takeaway, which is like a restaurant where you take the food out. And I worked there from 8 years onwards, cooking, serving the whole restaurant part of it. And it was interesting. Yeah, I saw a lot of human behavior at that age because in Wales, most of the time at weekends, it was after the pubs closed that people just stormed into the Chinese takeaway to get food. So I saw a gamut of how alcohol affects people and
Mhm.
fights and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, it was inside our home was very Chinese, that we were expected to sort of be Chinese, and
Okay.
but outside we were not, that wasn't mirrored.
I see. I see. I'm still caught up on the name of,
Yeah,
of the
it's
town.
yeah,
That's
it's a fun
insane.
one.
I'm sure
And,
that took a while to learn as a child.
yeah. And then I moved to study metalwork in Loughborough, moved to London, then Hong Kong. So I ended up from Hong Kong going back to London, then London to New York in 1994. So
Okay. Okay.
that's how.
And you had told me that you began creating art as a child. Can you talk about that a little bit? What inspired you to start creating art? And what type of art were you creating when you were young?
Play-Doh.
Like,
I remember one of the first things I remember making was an elephant in Play-Doh, and I won a little competition in school for it. And for me, it just felt the natural way to express myself,
Mm,
very unconscious at the time.
yeah.
I was very visually orientated, reading comics, not so much books with writing. And it was, it just it was also encouraged. There was always art materials at home and found objects. And so it wasn't a choice. It was almost just naturally a progression.
Do you have artists in your family?
Yeah, I would say we're all creative. My
Yeah.
father actually used to draw with biro on paper in the restaurant.
Hmm.
My uncles and on my mother's side were worked in the steel factories
Hmm.
in Sheffield, and one is a painter and also used to make boats and bottles,
Hmm.
very detail orientated. And then on the Chinese side, my father's adopted, so I don't know so much, but the adopted family are all creative dancers, ballet dancers, and designers. My sister
Okay.
also draws. My all my sisters and brother are creative in some.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a feeling when you said that art was encouraged in your home that there were probably other artists who you were around as a child. So you told me about how when you drew figures, human figures, you stopped at a certain point on all of them. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I'd always drawn the heads of three Asian girls since I was young. And it made sense because I'm one of five,
Mm.
but my brother came 18 months later, and my younger sister 12 years later. So at the core, there was three girls in our family for a while until my younger sister arrived. But I always drew the heads and I would just throw them away until 2012. And I was with a friend sitting at the kitchen table and I was scribbling on an envelope. And he said, what is that? And I said, I just doodles. And he said, why do you stop at the heads? Why don't you draw the bodies? And I thought, I'd never considered them more than doodles.
Hmm.
And at the time, I was painting more abstract sort of paintings. And it was almost like, no, I do this kind of work. And then afterwards, I thought how knobby it sound. Like just the way of just boxing myself into this label that I'd given myself, but it was restricting my creativity. So I bought these moleskin, tiny, like 4x6 sketchbooks, and I started just sketching on the subway, and the bodies started coming out. And it really felt as though I was connecting what I had disconnected as a child.
Mm.
When you disassociation from your body, your memories, the physical pain or emotional pain. And as I started drawing the arms and legs, all these memories or emotional memories more than anything, it felt needed to be expressed.
Mm.
It was never an intention to show this work. It was more my process and self-discovery of what was inside that I had not really, that kept hidden from myself, really.
Yeah.
That was the start of the project in that way.
Interesting. Very interesting. And the project that she's talking about is the Young Girl Project, which I saw years ago in New York before the pandemic, and it's incredibly impressive. So I want to talk a little bit about that artwork and what led to you creating that artwork. You had told me that you realized that you had experienced something traumatic when you were an adult. Can you share what that process was like of like uncovering suppressed memories?
Well, one memory I knew as a child. It was very much ingrained as a child, but I'd always never questioned it
Mhm.
as weird, strange, abnormal. And as I became late teens, early 20s, then you leave home and you then compare your existence to how other people's families or situations were. And then I went, oh, maybe it's not so normal. But I never dug into it. It was something that was always in the background that I had never spoken about until I had my daughter. And when she reached 2.5, it was then that I started having emotions that were not connected to my present moment.
Mm.
I would become extremely upset, but with no trigger that was related to a current circumstance. It might have been more related to relationships.
Hmm.
When you open up emotionally, um,
Yeah.
the knowledge that those sort of love or good emotions are also house all the other emotions in the same box.
Hmm.
So as I accessed one, all the others were like, yeah, I'm coming out too. And so I could never, uh, so to me at that time, love equal chaos,
Okay.
pain,
Okay.
because these other memories attached itself to it.
Mm.
And so I suppressed it again because I was a single mom, and I just felt I could not cope with or function. It was more a matter of how do I function
Hmm.
and also deal with this issue. So I suppressed it again until mid 30s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what role did your art play in maybe and maybe not, but in understanding these suppressed mo emotions and
Um,
things that were going on inside?
yeah, even the work that was not literal,
Hmm.
maybe big abstract painting, still housed the emotions. But I
Okay.
was not willing to be so open
Hmm.
to audience who saw them, or even to myself. And over time, the abstract became literal with the girls, and then that also coincided with my comfortability in accepting the truth and also sharing that.
Okay. Can you talk about, for those who haven't seen your artwork, what the Young Girl Project, if you can describe it in words, and we'll include links in our show notes where people can actually go and visit and see the art. But for those who are just listening right now, how would you describe the Young Girl Project?
I would say cartoon-based, graphic novel-based
Uh,
drawings and paintings, and they really depict the naivety of the all the how's it isolation, the first drawings of the girl, just a young girl.
mhm.
And as the project develops, it mines into dreams and also the subconscious and conscious.
Okay.
And it tells the emotional journey of healing, I would say. And it's ongoing. So I'm still creating, I'm still going on that journey and expressing it through drawings and paintings, music. And, yeah.
Do you think that your older artwork, the more abstract artwork, was that something that you found healing, or was it conveying something different?
Oh no, it's definitely conveying the same thing.
Okay.
Um, I remember doing an exhibition in DC and it was showing an abstract piece. At the time, I was doing script work
Hmm.
as well as like gestural strokes and everything. And a collector said, "So, what is this about?" And I just teared up. And I felt so silly because he was looking at me like waiting for an answer, and I couldn't answer because it
Mm.
was such a big question.
Yeah.
And it was overwhelming for me to actually dump on him the exact truth of what it was about.
Hmm.
And so I excused
Hmm.
myself and I just apologized and said, "Oh, yeah, I'll get back to that question later." There's one woman there who saw me and she knew straight away. I think people that have gone through this same issue,
Hmm.
very similar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, hypervigilance to these markers in each other. Yeah.
Right. Right. That I think that absolutely makes sense. And so, can you talk about what your art has done for you as it's progressed over the years in terms of healing, understanding, and maybe where you see it going?
I would say it's opened up conversation with people
Hmm.
where people feel free to share with me
Hmm.
what they've gone through. And through that conversation, a greater understanding of how this issue impacts the individual, families, community, and society, and the toll it takes on people who stay in this cycle of either silence or even healing. It affects every aspect of your life, from relationships to work to self-esteem to, and one thing I would say that it's so important to honor every emotion.
Hmm.
For a long time, I was angry, but still am in many ways, but it was channeled. And that anger can become fuel. And that fuel can become the fuel for creativity, for transformation, for a process in which you can use it to change things,
Hmm.
not just stay in this loop. And so the art allowed me to start those conversations because it was a physical object outside of the self that
Hmm.
people felt comfortable focusing on while they express themselves. It's very hard when eyes are all on you for some people. It was for me, at some point in my life. Yeah.
Right, right. I have a couple of follow-up questions to that, and that was so beautifully put. You told me that you've experienced flashbacks.
Mm.
What was that like? Like, I imagine it's very disorienting. And did that play a role in your art at all?
Yeah. So flashbacks, I would have emotional flashbacks
Hmm.
and also visual. So I remember once being in a supermarket pushing my trolley. Next thing I saw the back of a guy, and there must have been some connection to a memory because I don't remember a thing other than maybe 8 aisles later, and my daughter was like, "Where are you?" And I was pushing someone else's trolley, and I completely blacked out.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
had no recollection of that moment. And I did group therapy for a while, and I've met women, and I'm sure men go through this too. Who remembered, had flashbacks physically. One girl just remembered like she'd be on a bus and she'd feel people touching her. And
Mhm.
another, it was very clear memories. And so
Yeah.
it's very individual to each person how they've suppressed certain trauma. And I would say the there's artwork that depicts that process.
Hmm.
Also the idea that the memory is such a, or the mind or the brain is such an untapped or
Yeah.
unresearched part of our
Yep.
that it is an ongoing process of discovery for me.
Right. Huh. That's very interesting. And you mentioned that healing is also cyclical just now. And I think that's something that people don't talk about often. Like usually we hear about healing as this like upward trajectory that people are on, and you get to a point where you're healed. But which we know in reality is not how it goes. And I think that narrative can be harmful because then people feel like they're failing if that's not actually what their experience is. So when you say that healing is cyclical, what do you mean when you say that? And what does that look like?
It means that every time I've thought I'm over something,
Hmm.
I'm reminded by another experience that no, just another layer was peeled away.
Hmm.
So I now revisit that problem, but I have a greater mastery or understanding of my reaction to that problem. So it's always a process of forwards, backwards, but then that backwards momentum pushes me more forwards.
Hmm.
And the healing aspect, we're constantly, whether you come from trauma or not, you're constantly, hopefully, expanding as a human being and having a great understanding of yourself and your actions and your responses. And that for me is really important to continually self reflect
Hmm.
on what has occurred and shift, whether it's shift the perspective I have of myself, which could be blocking me or sabotaging me,
Hmm.
or of other people. Yeah, that's probably the process of why it's continually, you feel you're in a loop and you're like, oh, when is this going to end? Like, maybe it's not going to end.
Yeah.
It is going to become clearer with each loop I go through. The
Hmm.
vision, it's like, a frosty mirror, and then suddenly, oh yeah, it's getting clearer. The view's getting clearer until hopefully it's crystal clear.
Does creating art help you as you're learning more about yourself and are on this journey?
Yeah, it's my inner dialogue with myself.
Hmm. Hmm. I my outlet is always writing, and I write to understand myself and to understand different situations. And so what you're describing, it makes me think that for you, creating art in different modalities is the path to do that. Yeah, it's really, really beautiful. Can you talk about your recent art show and what else you have coming up and where people can view your art?
Yeah, so I have a show currently opened a few days ago at Ruby Dakota,
Hmm.
which is in New York City,
Hmm.
and that's on until August 9th. And Hannah's great. She supports the project and she's very attached to this issue, also personally. So you can see work there. She has work that she can share through emails as well as physically going into.
Hmm.
My website has some pieces on it, not everything, which is choichun.com. And Instagram also has images. But this show in New York has probably got the most of the work that's been seen in one showing. There's still
Okay.
a that hasn't that is obviously not on the show, but this has got a lot of sketches that I never thought would see the light of day because they were me going,
Mm.
Father's, like just, writing as well as mixed with artwork. So it's kind of
Uh-huh.
interesting what Hannah chose, and it's a very truthful show, I think. Yeah, in that way.
And when you have future shows, is that something that's announced on your website or on social media? How do people
I do
learn?
usually Instagram.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
How long have you been working on the Young Girl project?
started 2012.
Okay. Okay. So
I didn't work on it
23
consistently.
years.
13,
13 years. Sorry,
yeah,
I my math wrong. It's not
yeah.
23 years, 13 years.
But there was some years where I just stopped and worked on other things, just to have that mental break. And
Mhm.
yeah,
And you mentioned that other people will share their stories with you when they connect to your art. Is your art about you and your experience, or is it about what you're hearing from other people as well?
it's autobiographical.
Yeah.
I can only speak for myself.
Hmm.
So I always encourage other people to speak for themselves.
Hmm.
I could tell, you know, this from a male perspective, for instance, or any other perspective. So I have to just stay true to what my experiences are.
Yeah.
Other people should share their experiences through their lens. Yeah.
Hmm. And I think that's actually a great topic to end on today is what do you think about the value or importance or lack of importance of speaking out, of voicing our experiences?
I think it's so important to say everything,
Hmm.
whether it offends, upsets, like it's so important because what we're going to do, just keep it all inside. I mean, that's the the beauty and color of life is to express.
Hmm.
And I know that there's a statistic, I can't remember where it came from, but the more people that speak up about this, it is actually can prevent this from occurring. It
Hmm.
encourages kids who think this is normal to go, oh, this isn't normal, I'll speak up. And whether that's within your family or whether you're in a school environment or to your doctors or in any environment, this should be taken out of silence and taboo into mainstream. And that in itself, I think, will make predators feel fear
Hmm.
instead of the children or the victims feeling fear. Because it is when you speak out, you get shamed, you get called a liar, you get called shut up and move on, and that you're not supported in many ways because, and I don't know exactly why, but from a lot of people I know, and myself also included, it has to be, it can unravel many other stories within the community or society in itself.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's time to unravel that.
Yeah.
Sorry, but it is.
Well said. Well said. Thank you so much for being on, Choi. And to everyone who is listening, I would highly encourage you to view her artwork. It's really powerful. And thank you for all you're doing. Thank you for sharing your story and for information about your art. I really appreciated having you on. And thank you to everyone for listening.
Thank you also, Alison. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on Rights and Remedies. I hope today's episode gave you valuable insights into the legal issues facing victims and the pathways to healing. Remember, you're not alone in this journey. Whether you're a survivor, an advocate, or someone looking to learn more, we're here to support and empower you. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with others. You can also follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn at ALM Law LLC for updates, resources, and more. Until next time, take care and remember that together we can make a difference.